I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it. Malcolm X. Everybody wants me to be what they want me to be. Lionel Richie. Jesus answered, Thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. Pilate saith unto him, What is truth? John 18, 37 through 38. At long last, out of the clear blue, but not for reasons of discontent, Holly Hubbard quit her job. She'd been teaching English for a long time, but she'd also had her eye on a vice principalship for a long time. So when one came open in a neighboring district, she took it, and she left. So she had to be replaced, and her replacement had to be replaced, and so forth and so on. So by the time the dust settled, the 6th grade English department at Lorena Middle School had become something of a revolving door. So Sarah's principal called her into the office and said, I can't have this. I need someone there who's a known commodity with staying power. So after 5 years of teaching kids bound for high school, Sarah was now teaching kids fresh out of elementary school. And those 3 years cover a lot of ground. Some of the 8th graders are bigger than me, and some of the 6th graders would not be out of place on our magic carpet. And 6th graders read different books. For the first time in her career, Sarah had to give up The Outsiders. She kept A Christmas Carol. And she had to change something else, her classroom. So one day, she and I spent the afternoon boxing up her books and paraphernalia and toting them down the hall to the 6th grade wing. And on our way, I saw a bulletin board. Advice to 6th graders from 8th graders on how to succeed in middle school. And all of it was bullshit. Bring your materials to class, obey your teachers, be on time, get enough sleep. Except for one. There in the middle, blazing through the surrounding lameness, was a card that said, Don't kick the ball on the roof. And I thought, there's a story there. So I went to Sarah and said, What's up with that? And she said, Oh my God, every day. It's like Toys R Us up there. Of course, since we were changing classrooms, this was the summertime, and by law, any children in the state of Texas who failed a star must be given extra instruction, usually during the summer. Now, Lorena Middle School has a stellar pass rate, but there are some kids who don't make it, and Sarah had to tutor 2 of them, 2 boys for 2 weeks. On the second day of those 2 weeks, I get a text. They just kicked the ball on the roof. It was a basketball. I said, What were they doing? She said, I don't know. But there it was on the roof until one of the custodians had time to go and get it. Those boys were not succeeding in middle school. 40 years prior to that, 3 things happened that would change my life, 2 of them permanently. First, I got my first girlfriend. This was not one of the permanent ones, and was in fact most temporary, and will not be the subject of another reflection. In fact, there were 2 girls, one blonde and one brunette. We were all in governor's school at Roanoke College, the first governor's school in the state of Virginia held for the fine arts rather than science and math. The brunette was named Maria. I met her first. She was down to earth, wore pigtails, a style which I still love. And she was a singer. I still remember her voice singing God our Father, Christ our brother, to the tune of Joyful, Joyful, we adore thee. I thought she was awesome. And she probably dug me as well, although it was lost on me at the time. I think she probably dug me because she invited me over to her house. It was on campus facing the quad since her dad was on the faculty. and we sat on our porch and talked for a long time with no hurry and nowhere to go. Something I would not do with another girl or woman until I met Sarah. But alas, there was the blonde. Her name was Karen, and she played the piano. She was also enamored with my piano playing and was just a little bit more forthcoming with her intentions, and she was blonde. Yes, too many boys and too many men pick Ginger over Mary Ann because too many of us learn too late in life that Mary Ann is the way to go. Coconut cream pies trump a slinky gown in the end. But alas, I was 15, and Karen and I became an item for a few months until she broke my heart. Neither girl will figure any further in this story, but Karen's mother does. One thing I was enamored with in high school, almost as much as girls, was video games. The real kind that use quarters that are found in game rooms. Game rooms were to me in high school what cocktail bars are now. The comparison is pretty obvious, really. Lots of exciting colored lights in an otherwise dark and enclosed space, but one with a lot of noise, bustle, and people. So I was walking to one through the streets of, guess where Roanoke College is located? Salem, I don't know why. Which I'm sure was against the rules, since I was only 15, when Karen's mother pulled over, rolled down the window, and asked me if I wanted a ride. And as I opened the door and got in, I heard her singing along to the radio. You want to be starting something, you got to be starting something. I say, you want to be starting something, you got to be starting something. And the second thing happened that would change my life, this one for good. I heard the music from Michael Jackson's Thriller for the first time. Karen's mother was German and loquacious. She said, I got some donuts. Yeah, I got some donuts. Would you like some donuts? I got some donuts. I took a donut. She said, would you like another? And I took another. And she said, would you like some more? So I took a third. Later on, she made fun of me in front of her family, saying, I asked him if he wanted some donuts. He ate 3. But she asked. She also taught me how to pronounce the bright ah in German. I said I was practicing the Waldstein Sonata by Beethoven, and she said, Nein, Waldstein. It stuck. Of course, the reason I was walking to the game room was that at 15, I had not taken driver's ed. That was the third thing that would change my life. This one the most permanently. I took it in a few months at Pulaski County High School. During one of those classes, a state trooper came into our class to talk to us. The year was 1983, and we were all sitting there like a scene from The Breakfast Club, wondering what this guy was going to say. And what he said was this: can one of y'all tell me why y'all are here? We thought about it, and after a while, a few hands went up, and answers were given, all of which were bullshit. So we can be better drivers, so we can learn to be safe, blah, blah, blah. He nodded politely and said, yep, all those things are accurate. If you take this class, all of those should happen. And then he said something I'll never forget. Now tell me why you're really here. And that was a different question. After a while, one kid wearing a cap got it, and speaking with the bright ah that belongs to the dialect of my people, said, because you got to get your license. And the state trooper said, exactly. You're required by law in the state of Virginia to take driver's ed before you get your license. But it wasn't always that way. And then he went on and talked about why the law was enacted and what its ramifications were. I thought it was a great way to segue into his talk. I never forgot it. I never forgot the thrill I felt on hearing it. And I've never forgotten the difference between bullshit and the truth. I was also thrilled by the word really. My undergrad piano teacher often used it as in, you know, you played that piece just now, but you didn't really play it. Play it again and really play it. He didn't mean that I made mistakes or he didn't agree with what I had done. He meant that I hadn't really given it my all. I hadn't tried to show what was important to me about the music. I hadn't shared my truth. I wouldn't bet 1 red cent that the 8th graders who said those things were themselves on time or brought their materials to class or got enough sleep. They said them because they thought they were expected to. But I would bet my paltry life savings that the brave kid in the middle had in fact kicked a ball on the roof or had seen or heard of the same. And none of us were taking driver's ed because it would make us better drivers. If someone had come up to us in the hall and asked, "Hey, you want to take driver's ed? Do I get credit for it? No. Do I get paid to take it? No." Write your own response. In churches other than this one, children are often asked loaded questions, and the answer is usually Jesus. As in, what means the most to you, kids? Jesus! And the audience applauds like trained monkeys, and I think Jesus as well, as in, Jesus Christ, what did you think you were going to say? I mean, I would challenge any of the applauding parents to tell their kids, guess what, kids? You can't play any games, look at your phone, or watch TV today, but you've got Jesus, and see if they deem it a fair trade. It reminds me of the wonderfully named Mr. Brocklehurst, who tells Jane Eyre, "I have a little boy younger than you who knows 6 psalms by heart, and when you ask him which he would rather have, a gingerbread nut to eat or a verse of a psalm to learn, he says, 'Oh, the verse of a psalm. Angels sing psalms,' said he. 'I wish to be a little angel here below.' He then gets 2 nuts in recompense for his infant piety." Those answers often appear during children's sermons and Sunday school. Sarah was once teaching a Sunday school class to high schoolers, and some kid answered Jesus, and Sarah said, "Okay, you're not in children's church anymore. Jesus doesn't have to be the answer to everything." Which begs the question, why did it ever? In fact, she calls them Sunday school answers. An answer you give because you think you're supposed to. Giving someone the answer you think they want to hear. I don't do Sunday school answers, and it's made my life harder. Because sometimes the world is one big Sunday school. Everybody wants me to be what they want me to be, but I can't be anything other than what I am, or say anything other than what I really think. I don't pick up on cues, whether sitting on girls' porches or eating their mother's donuts. I'm literal to a fault, saying what I mean and requiring the same clarity in return. And it started when I was 3 years old. I needed some medicine and didn't want to take it. So my grandmother thought it would be a swell idea to hold me down and force my mouth open, which made me scream and thrash even more. Then my mother got right in my face and said, "You're sick, and if you don't take this medicine, you won't get better." I immediately lay down, locked my arms at my sides, and opened my mouth wide. Because my mother had told me the truth. I was once eating dinner with some friends, and Sarah had to get there late because she was running the sound for a show. They said, "Would you like to order for Sarah?" I said, "Why would I want to order for Sarah? I don't know what she wants." 10 minutes go by. They ask again, "Would you like to order for Sarah?" I again say no. 10 more minutes go by. They ask a third time, and after I, highly confused, answer no a third time, they ask, "Well, is it okay if we go ahead and order?" I say, "Of course, why didn't you just say that?" Repeat for my entire life. We're placed into roles created for us by someone else. And the ones who succeed are often the ones like Mr. Brocklehurst's little boy who navigate that maze with no regrets and no compunction, and sometimes no scruples. I've been passed over for job after job in favor of someone who was no better than me, but who fit the mold. I've never fit anyone's mold. It's hard politically. I'm not on anybody's team, and I call out the truth where I find it, no matter who says it. I've lost friends for that. It's hard with family, because my family made up their minds about me decades ago, and far be it from me to change them. The last time I ever saw my father, the family had come to say goodbye, and one of them gave me a southern hug and proclaimed in their southern voice, full of southern concern, "I don't know when I'll see you again." And they were expecting a southern response. They wanted to hear, "Well, it was great to see you. We'll have to get together sometime." But I didn't say that. I said, "March," and their face fell. The trip had actually been planned for months. They were expecting sometime, safe in the indeterminate future, not a real time, not a real visit. They never really intended to visit and never have. They wanted a Sunday school answer. So what do we do, those of us who find it hard to live our lives behind a mask? Why give this reflection if we are past all hope? Is there anything we can do? As it turns out, yes. First and foremost, find your people. Even if everybody wants you to be what they want you to be, you don't have to please everybody. Another truth my mother spoke to me when I was in middle school is if somebody doesn't like you, they're probably never going to like you. Move on. Whoever you are, there are people out there who will appreciate you for that. My first conversation with Sarah ended with her saying, "I really enjoyed talking to you." Our second, with me telling her, "I'd love to go out with you because I think you're terrific." We told each other the truth. And it set the stage for the most wonderful 9 years of my life. In some ways, the first 9 years of my life. Wonderful, not because either of us is better than anyone else, but because we like each other just as we are. And yeah, meeting Sarah was luck, but coming here wasn't. We chose this place. And although the UU has seen some rough patches and will see some more, no one is fake or they wouldn't be here. We're all so lucky to have such a space where we can be who we are. I hope it will always be so. And as your soon-to-be president, I will try my best to make it so and keep it so. After all, our third principle begins with acceptance of one another. I have found my people here. Second, play the other man's game. This was advice given to me by a coach when I played on our high school chess team. Don't go through a game of chess thinking, if I move here and they move here, I can move here and win. Anyone worth beating isn't going to move where you want them to. Instead, consider what they want to do, where they want to move, what would help them the most. And in a game of chess, do the opposite of that thing. But when we're not competing, but trying to get along, form relationships, and get things done, look at the situation through the other person's eyes. Maybe they're less open about things than you are. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they've had to be more guarded. So don't push it. Ironically, this is something I'm good at. Yesterday, I saw a woman at Dichotomy and told her, "I love your coat." She whirled around and said, "Oh, thank you. I got it in a shop in New Orleans that had to close." I said, "My wife and I love New Orleans. We went there on our honeymoon." I introduced her to Sarah and we talked for 10 minutes. But sometimes I tell people I love their coat and they smile and say thanks and move on. Let them move on. As a musicology professor once said about listening to a piece of music, don't try to tell it, let it tell you. Play the other person's game because they have their own truth. Third, know your value. A few years ago, I was coming back from visiting family. I had tried yet again to talk about my hopes and dreams, what I cared about, and yet again encountered the all too familiar barrier of small talk and folksy stories, along the lines of, remember when you said this in the first grade? And I was driving home defeated and hurt. And Sarah said, they don't deserve your authentic self. I'd never considered not being my authentic self, although my then therapist had given me similar advice. All MCC wants is a grad student. That's all they're paying for, and that's all they deserve. I was yearning to create great art, and all I was doing was scaring the kids. They wanted someone to hit the right notes and keep their mouth shut. One of my favorite TV scenes is from the Bob Newhart show, when a huge man wearing gregarious clothes and pulling a giant Doberman on a leash sits on the psychiatrist's couch and says, I just don't understand it. People are always intimidated by me. And Robert Hartley said, well, you have to admit you're a pretty imposing guy. I can't help it, Doc. I just gotta be me. Well, you can still be you, but maybe you can just look like somebody else. Not everyone deserves your authentic self. Know your value and guard it. The last one is the most difficult. Maybe it's your fault. Maybe you're trying too hard. Maybe you're searching when you don't need to. And by you, I mean me. The truth doesn't always have to be elusive, complicated, or rare. One of my pet peeves in classical music is that the most famous pieces that the average audience can appreciate, even if they aren't musicians themselves, a quality known in the business as accessible, are often snubbed as being somehow less great than those that take the most work to understand. I'm all for James Joyce, but listen to the opening of Huckleberry Finn. You don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but that ain't no matter. Sometimes simplest is best. My translating career reached a new milestone recently when, just for a lark, I tried doing what all the fancy cliches say not to. I just translated what the document said, without trying to embellish or improve it. It was 4 times faster and easier, and to be honest, I kind of think that's what most clients expect. After all, they wrote it, I didn't. I stopped assuming that I knew some sophisticated truth they were too stupid to see. And I began to view the original drafter as a colleague, not an adversary. Sometimes it's okay to give people what they want. It doesn't have to mean that you're lying or selling out. I could have thought to myself, why might these people want me to order for Sarah? I could have asked them, why do you want me to order for Sarah? My time is running short, so I'd like to close with a LinkedIn post in which a proofreader was lamenting her fate. I just can't seem to leave a document alone. I find so many things to change that it takes forever. Another proofreader commented, that's not your job. You're being paid to fix mistakes in the document, not rewrite it. But sometimes it's really hard to decide where one ends and the other begins. No, it's not hard. At first I thought that last comment was pretty harsh, but on reflection, I realized she was right. The original poster knew the difference. She just wasn't experienced enough to do what she needed to do. And I know how she feels. I once had a phone conversation, rare in my field, with a Chinese translator who lived in New York and ran an agency. She wanted me to proofread something, and she said, the client already likes the translator's style. We just need you to check for typos and mistakes. We sometimes get these things all marked up with changes everywhere, and that's the mark of a junior translator. That's not what we want. To a new proofreader, the text is a vast sea of things to fix. But as you get older, as my colleagues put it, you need to develop a lazy impartiality, an emotional distance. You can't make changes because you have to, but because you choose to. And it's the same with sharing your truth. Not everyone is ready for it, because they have their truth too. But if we wait for the right moment, the right time to connect, we can find our people. We can truly know their minds, accomplish what we can, take one more step, sing one more song, and say one more word together until that word is heard by everyone. Because that's why we're really here.